What's up everyone? Welcome to another movie review, and this time I am taking a look at the brand new addition to the James Bond series, 007 Skyfall. Now it's just called Skyfall, but I put the 007 in there anyway because I can. So anyway, 007 Skyfall. I love James Bond. This is the 23rd movie. I haven't seen every single James Bond movie, let me just be frank with you there, but I still love them. Either video game wise or movie wise, I love James Bond, and I loved the hell out of Casino Royale. I thought that was an amazing movie, probably my favorite movie of 2006, and it was a great way to introduce Daniel Craig as James Bond. Quantum of Solace was a good sequel, not amazing though. Really good though. So I was really anticipating this one. I was like, you know what, those last two, the first one amazing, the second one really good. I'm really expecting this to be amazing. Skyfall has Sam Mendes directing it. He's a fantastic director. You have Daniel Craig again. You have a huge, great cast of supporting characters. I cannot wait to see this film. What did I think of it? Let's talk about the story. The story for Skyfall, of course, follows Bond. James Bond, 007, and he is on the trail right in the beginning of a man who just took the list of every single MI6 agent working today. Every single one, and each one that is actually in relations with a terrorist organization. Now, they're not actually, terrorists, they're just doing that so they can go undercover and take down terrorists. But if that gets leaked, of course, that means MI6 is just going to get screwed over, and they won't be able to find all the terrorists because terrorists are bad. And of course James Bond has to go after him, and in the beginning he destroys a whole train, friggin' jumps on a train, beats this dude up and stuff, and then boom, he gets shot off by another agent played by Naomi Harris on mistake and is presumed dead. 3 months later, of course, James Bond comes back into duty because he heard, of course, London was getting attacked with, threats and actual bombings and stuff, and MI6 isn't really doing too good. So James Bond comes back and says, you know what, I'm back in duty. I might not be as skilled as I was 3 months ago because I was just being lazy and stuff, but you know what, I'm back. Let's do this. Let's go get this guy that took our stuff and stop him. And of course the guy that's doing all this, his name is Silva, played by Javier Bardem, and there's a little backstory with his character. I don't really want to spoil it, but he's an evil dude. Daniel Craig's James Bond has to go stop him, and that's really the story. So there you go, there's the story. It's pretty simple this time because the last two, I gotta admit, are kind of hard to explain, at least for me. By the way, I did all that in one breath. That's right. Anyway, the story here, in a way, is kind of cliched because you have, of course, the flash drive that contains things that, if unveiled, will ruin everything, and of course the bad guy gets it and bad things happen. It's kind of cliched at that point, but really, after like halfway through the movie, it becomes more about the characters and of course James Bond himself. It's about him rising up to the occasion, finding this guy even though he's way smart, he's a genius, and trying to get this guy, and of course going into a little bit more of his backstory, James Bond himself, and finding a little bit more about his character. And I really enjoyed that. I thought the story here was very, very compelling. Daniel Craig, once again, proves that James Bond is his character. He is James Bond. He's a badass in this movie, and Daniel Craig's like 45, maybe even almost 50 years old, but man, he's badass, let's just say that. Daniel Craig is just fantastic in this film as James Bond once again, but everybody else does a great job as well. You also have Javier Bardem, of course, who plays the villain Silva, who is a mixture of sympathetic and just plain evil, because when you hear his backstory, you understand why he's evil, but then he does things that are just really evil, just despicable, like either before or after that explanation. And it's a mixture of I care for him and I don't, and he just does a great job with that. He's very sinister, very over the top at times, but not too over the top to be really silly. He just did a great job here. Judi Dench again plays M, and she does a fantastic job here. She has a whole great chemistry in the entire film with James Bond, and I thought that was really well developed in this film. Naomi Harris, who I've always loved since 28 Days Later, I saw her in that movie, she does a great job here, and again, she has a great chemistry with James Bond, and I thought she was great in this film. Ralph Fiennes, who is barely in the film, but maybe he'll have a bigger role in the next one, but here he's barely in the film, but he does a great job as well. Ben Whishaw, who plays Q, the guy who gives, of course, James Bond all of his gadgets, does a great job here as well, and just overall the cast does a great job here. No one did a bad job. Everybody did a fantastic job, to be honest, and yeah, the acting, the story, everything so far is fantastic. So what else could be fantastic? Well, I'll tell you. The last two James Bond movies had plenty of action, it really did, especially the last one, and this one, decides to go a little bit less on the action and go more for the character. But when it gets to the action, it is fantastic. And let me just say this, I don't really talk about it that much in movies, but the cinematography is fantastic in this film, and the way the camera work is when the action is going on, all the fist fights and all the driving, the car chases, it's a beautifully shot movie and well choreographed, well shot, and you can tell what the hell's going on. Just like in The Man with the Iron Fist from last week, which I'm not even going to try to really compare them, story wise, because I could understand what was going on in this movie. That one I couldn't, but action-wise, I understood what was going on. The action was very well done. The choreography, all the little stunts, everything was very well done in this film. Skyfall is a great action film. If you want action, you don't get it as much as the last two, but you still get plenty of it to consider it an action thriller. And it's great. I thought it was fantastically well shot. The stunts were really good. Again, the cinematography was beautiful. All the characters are extremely likable, and all their little, dialogue pieces between each one is either humorous or sometimes emotional. I thought this was a fantastic film. Now, I did have a couple problems with it. One, it's a little too long for me. I mean, it's a 2.5-hour movie just like the last two, but still I found the last one at least to be a little too long. The first one not really, but the last one was a little bit too long. And this one drags on a wee bit, and there's a couple of scenes that do get a little dry. And maybe that's where they should be cut, so it'd be a little shorter. But for the most part, I still think Skyfall is a fantastic film. Definitely go check it out if you're a James Bond fan like me. I'm going to give it a 38 out of 40. Definitely go check it out. Skyfall is a fantastic film. Not as good as Casino Royale, but still fantastic. There you go. There's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and goodbye.